All right, we are live now. So everybody, I would like to welcome you some very good friends of mine. On the bottom down here, we have Miss Amy Tucci from Pressing Matters, and then up in the top left, I have a very good friend. I don't want to say old friend because people take the wrong connotation of it,
Mm.
but I have a very good friend who I actually consider part of my family, the legendary Mike Grell.
Hi guys.
Um, Kind of one of the reasons I want to get on here is we have something going on this weekend. We have Free Comic Book Day here, and then we have which Mike is going to be at along with quite a few other guests. And then about 2 weeks afterwards, Mike and I will be taking a trip up to the Buffalo area to go to Amy and Darren's convention, the DeceptaCon, and also doing the shop signing at 3D Comics. Is that right?
That is correct.
Very cool. Well, one of the things I really wanted to get into as well is it's kind of too late to do it for here. Luckily, Mike's got one or so. But if you are looking to get any commissions from Mike, they will be pencil only. You can contact me or you can contact Darren over there, and he'll get it through to me. The cutoff is actually only a few more days away to give Mike enough time to be able to get whatever these commissions done before he makes it up there. But one thing I really want to remind everybody is when you pre-order a commission like that, when the artist like Mike can actually work in the comfort of his own studio, his own home, and the chair he's comfortable in with all of his equipment and a table he's used to working on, I can just about promise you are going to get a much better piece than you ever would with him sitting in a fold-out chair at a flat table that they've never seen before with only the stuff they happen to bring with them at the time. Am I wrong?
Fingers and thumbs. That's what I bring. I've been known to show up at a show with nothing and have to mooch and borrow everything. Pencil from one guy, leads from another guy, pinch of a kneaded eraser. Those were the bad old days. I'm a little more organized now.
Well, but you can sit back and laugh about those days now.
Oh yeah. Well, you have to laugh. I mean, it doesn't do any good to sit there and cry in your beer, right?
Oh well, I mean, it will add more. It will add more volume to it. I mean, that's the only positive thing of that.
Makes it salty.
Well, I'm drinking a Goza anyway, so it's already kind of salty. So I'm good to go. So, Amy, we'll go to you right quick. What's some of the things we can expect when we come up to, like I said, neither Mike's never been to 3D Comics as far as I know. Have you, Mike?
No.
And neither have I. So, and to DeceptaCon, what are some of the things that you have going on up there? And you know, what can we look forward to?
All right. So Friday, August 27th from noon to 5 at 3D Comics in Lancaster, New York. The owners and who run Joel and Ish, they are amazing and they are a staple in the Western New York comic community. So it's exciting to be able to have Mike, of course, and Ming to come out. Then Saturday, August 28th from, 10 to 4, I want to say it is. We're going to have tables of tons of comic vendors. We're going to have cosplayers, toys, you name it. Fun times, possible karaoke for Ming Chen. We have.
Don't say just for Ming. I've heard Mike sing a song or two.
Oh.
The trick is not getting me to sing; it's getting me to shut up.
I'll take that challenge.
Well, speaking of which, that's a good segue, Mike. Why don't you? I mean, like I said, your name is synonymous with so many projects, so many things, and I kind of get a little bit spoiled, because like I said, me growing up, I always wanted to talk to you about comics, and since I've known you, I think that's one of the few things we have never ever talked about. But
that's why we're still friends.
So, give us a little rundown what you're working on now. I know you've had the Kickstarter stuff going on. I don't know if I know there's probably a new project coming up. Why don't you give us a rundown on some of that stuff?
Yes, the Kickstarter for the Sable Omnibus was fantastically successful. We ran into a few hiccups along the way. Printers fell out. wrong size, things like that. Little things that you never notice, right? You never pay any attention to until you got the sample in your hands, and it's like yeah. The first stuff that we got through was on the wrong paper, and then it was the wrong size, then it was the wrong this, the wrong that, and but we're working through it. Jeff Messer is my editor on my imprint Masterstroke Studios, and Jeff does just a bang up job. He's a terrific guy. Getting everything sorted through. We just finished the edits on the new version of the Sable novel, which is included as part of the Kickstarter. And everybody who bid at a certain level will be getting a copy of that. If they already have not, they should have. And if not, I'll take it up with Jeff next time I see him in person. But that's going to be coming out in a digital format and print on demand here, hopefully by the end of the year. Getting on some of that. Our next project after that will be another Maggie the Cat. I have a 2-part completion to that story. The wrap up will be done in 2 parts, and looking forward to that. It's a story that's been near and dear to my heart since I first came up with it, and Maggie's such a great character. Anybody who's not familiar with her, she's an American model who married into some half-assed version of British royalty, a landed gentry type, and she thought she was going to be living a Princess Grace kind of a fairy tale. Turned out to be a lot more like Princess Diana, or in modern times, Meghan Markle. Hounded by the press and just hunted down within practically an inch of her life. Meanwhile, her husband is a philandering no-gooder who has literally given the family jewels away to all of his many mistresses. And when he kills himself in a car wreck with his latest, she decides to take matters into her own hands and take back some of what's rightfully hers. And she does that by becoming a cat burglar. And she's slowly but surely stealing back all the little baubles that her husband has given away and replacing them with paste copies. And the British government gets wind of what she's doing, and the SAS press her into service to hunt down and ferret out a Nazi war criminal. Yeah, he's an old guy, a really old guy, but he's also a terrorist mastermind, and he's got one final the last hurrah. He's going to go out with a bang, and as far as he's concerned, he sees no reason at all why the rest of the world should survive him. So that's where that is. I've done screenplays for both of those, for both Sable and Maggie, and they're making the rounds right now, getting some good, strong response. And I just got a ping about Shaman's Tears, so fingers crossed. Where are we here? Here we go. Somewhere like that. I got them crossed along with my eyes, toes, whatever. Grandma said, spit in one hand and wish in the other and see which one fills up the fastest.
Well,
but,
my dad said the same thing, but it wasn't the word spit.
Yeah, Grandma cleans it up for us kids, okay? Yeah, but so that's where that is. And, of course, the reprints continue with DC. They are running the next Green Arrow Omnibus will be out in November. I think November 9th it ships.
I think so.
And after that, I am told, a little birdie told me, that they're finally going to do the Warlord.
Really?
Yep.
Wow. Yeah, that's one of the few books that it's hard to find trade paperback formats or reprint volumes of it. I mean, I've still got my full run, but it actually took a while to hunt down pretty much everything. But yeah, that's one of the few ones. I think they did it in their essentials format, or not essentials, showcase format. Where
Black
it was
and white, yeah.
black and white.
Yeah.
But I don't think I can actually remember when they've ever done a
Nope.
comprehensive volume of it.
No, they haven't. And I'm really, really eager for this. Now, whether it'll all be in one volume or split into two is anybody's guess. There's certainly enough.
It's a big breadth of work, so I would think it would have to be two.
I would
At
think
least
so.
two.
I would think so, yes.
Well, speaking of the Green Arrow stuff, recently, Finally County, you worked on it a while back, came out, but they did the Green Arrow 80th anniversary book.
Yes.
I only had one problem with it.
Which was?
So, they had different variants covers. There's probably about 10 covers. And on one of them, they actually used the Longbow Hunter style logo on it. But it wasn't you that did the artwork on the cover. What the hell? Who screwed that up at DC?
DC.
I mean, they went so far as to use, like I said, the Longbow Hunters font on the cover and decided to not use you to do the cover.
Yep. It's standard par for the course. I've learned a long time ago not to be terribly surprised when I'm the last person they come to. It's almost as if, well, we tried everybody else. Maybe we can get Grell to do something.
Well, I mean, on the bright side, you did at least get like a little 8-page story in there, though.
Yes, I did.
Which was freaking gorgeous and fantastic. So
I had fun with that one. I pitched them one version, and they loved it. Editor, of course, remember, editors at DC are not like the editors used to be, where they're capable of making decisions, right? So the editor raved about the outline, then passed it up the chain of command, and then they came back and they wanted a few changes. Well, one of the things, sort of secondary change that they wanted was the container. Let me just step back here for a second. The plot centers around an ocean shipping container that is full of cargo coming out of Korea and the North Korea, in fact. And the problem with that is that Ollie thinks that it's illegal arms, and Shadow knows better. And it turns out that they're smuggling girls. Well, in my original concept, it was Chinese and Japanese girls who were being victimized, and all of that came about at the time that there was a spate of Asian bashing going on in this country. Pretty horrific. And so they wanted changes made to change the reference from Asian to whatever. And then they wanted dialogue to clarify. Then they wanted something else. And I had written it so that it was just a visual, right? You open the container, it's not guns, it's girls. And when they couldn't figure out how to word it so that you could take away all of that Asian reference, they decided to let me go back to my original, which is just show the picture, right? Denny O'Neill's always stressed, you don't talk about what's in the picture, right? You don't talk about it in captions or in dialogue. That's for something else. You've got text and subtext. The best example being Pulp Fiction.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the opening of Pulp Fiction. Two guys are getting ready to kill some other guys, but they're not talking about that. They're talking about foot massages. And more importantly still, they're planting the seeds for something that'll happen later on. So you know that if Rocky Horror got thrown through a greenhouse for giving me a foot massage, John Travolta is in a lot of trouble.
Well, I hate to interrupt you for a second, Mike, but I did want to bring up. Change the little format right here. I did want to introduce you to the other part of Pressing Matters LLC, which is Amy's husband, Darren. He's the guy responsible for it all.
Amy, I thought you had suddenly developed an unsightly growth there on your right hand shoulder.
My mom's used that example about 25, 30 times in her life, so it fits. How you doing,
It's
Mike?
a generation thing.
That's right. Well, I'll be happy to having you come back to Buffalo. It's an honor to have you here.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it has. I think it was 2017, 2018 might have been it, or
Yeah, 17, I think.
well, 17. Okay.
Yep.
Well, the
Sorry,
weather's very Biloxi like today, so hopefully it'll hold out and be just as warm when you get here.
Well, hopefully you don't have the humidity. It's like 95 degrees and about 82% humidity right now.
Oh, it's that way here. I'm sponge at the moment. I've just imbibed so much water.
Yeah. Well, you know, one of the other things, and so we talked about it earlier with the Kickstarter stuff. One of the things I'm curious about, and I wanted to talk to you about it again, but we always forget about it. But I guess on one of the nights out, I sat around talking with Mike, and I was sworn to secrecy, but I know how Sable ends now. When is anybody else going to get to see the incredible ending that I can actually finally share with somebody and talk about?
It depends on how long I can keep this going. Okay. Yeah, I do have a definitive ending for that character. I thought about it very early on, not as early as I did with a Warlord, but it's always nice to have a goal in mind. My goal right at this point is to eventually, when I'm old and gray, too late. Okay, eventually, before I'm old and dead, to get to tell the story the way I wanted to. Trust me to say that it's pretty twisted and dark, and once it's done, you can figure that'll be the end of the story.
Well, if something ever happens, I want to get it on now. Do I have permission to find somebody to finish it up, since I know how it's supposed to end? I mean, not trying to push any ill will or anything.
Sure. So about our date to go skydiving on Saturday, I think I'm going to take a pass. And the same goes for Sunday's bungee jumping. I'm just saying.
One of the things I got to let y'all know, both you and Darren and Amy, anybody that shows up, this is one of the reasons why I said I consider Mike part of the family, and we all fell in love with pretty much immediately. Was the fact that I don't know if y'all realize yet when you get up there, or when we get up there, Mike is not just a comic talent. He is an entertainer all the way around. There is going to be no time when there is going to be, if you're interested in something, either Mike's done it already, and this is not bragging whatsoever. Ever, he has done it already, or he is drawn doing it. I mean,
yeah,
there.
Safaris to on Indian grounds and everything. I mean, he's pretty much done it all.
Wow. So we're talking magic. What are we talking?
Yeah. Of course. Poof.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, you'll get the chance to see. There's a lot of interesting stories from everything. From,
So one day I was riding with my brother, and he said, "So if you know magic, turn me into something." So I grabbed the wheel and turned him into a telephone pole. Boom, boom.
We got a few people tuning in. Let me want to say hi to a few people here. We had Josh Booth coming in, and Preston Edmonds here, or Emmons. Sorry, Preston. But you had a few people commenting already. But what's some of the things that we talked to Amy about it? But what's some of the other things she explained the stuff going on over at DeceptaCon? But what are some other things we can have to look forward to when we go up there? I mean, I know she's already mentioned karaoke, so
Oh yes.
that's
Well, okay. So you remember, Scott, you made that. You had claimed that you were going to do a duet with Mike. You were going to sing "You Don't Bring Me Flowers"
actually,
anymore, and you were going to
actually
do
there
the
was
part.
there is one song that me and Mike have sung before, but he puts me to shame.
No, but you said this time you were going to dress up like Barbara Streisand and duet with him on "You Don't Bring Me Flowers" anymore. So we're holding you to that.
I got
Well-
lots of wigs.
You don't
Problem is-
bring me flowers. You don't sing me love songs. You hardly talk to me anymore when it comes through the door at the end of the day.
Hit it, Scott.
Now you've ruined the surprise because now he's going to bring flowers.
No, there's a number of places because as we already know, Ming Chen is coming along with us, and there's a number. Well, we're definitely doing karaoke. We're doing Duff's. Now, Mike, how spicy do you handle your food? Are you a spice lover, or do you got to watch that because your stomach doesn't handle it too much?
You're right.
No, I'm a 4 stars out of 5 guy. All right.
Oh, are you?
And,
Okay.
yeah, I never order 5 stars because if you do, the chef will regard that as a challenge. And
Okay.
yeah, you'll be spitting fire out of both ends before you know it.
I don't know.
Yes.
I was up in Montreal, traveling with my show rep, who also represents Billy D. Williams. And on their way in, they always like to ask the cab driver to recommend a restaurant, right? Well, they had an Indian cab driver who recommended an Indian restaurant.
Oh.
When I walked through the door, my eyes started watering, and the waitress came over to take our orders, and everybody else was looking for the blandest food they could find, and I ordered the tandoori chicken, and she looked at me and she went, I went, really? She says, the kitchen staff eats that. I went, that's for me.
That's what I want then.
Yeah. But bring me a small glass of milk or a cup of yogurt on the side, please. And she went, all right. Well, while everybody else is leaning back from the flames that are rising off this stuff, I pounded it down, and oh my God, it's really good when your throat seizes up and you can't talk for about 5 minutes. That's how hot this was. But once I got it under control, like, oh man, that was the best Indian food I've ever eaten.
Beautiful. Well, there's obviously a fair amount of bars that are in the area. One in particular, I swear I believe it's a whiskey bar, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think they just have whiskey. Scott, it might be just like that one that was in Pensacola.
Oh no, I'm looking forward to it now.
Yeah, and Buffalo, there's just no end to fantastic ethnic restaurants.
And lots of food.
Lots of food. And we know Buffalo is known for, good eating, good drinking, and Super Bowl losing. So, we'll do 2 of the 3.
Who the hell do they think they are? The Packers?
Yeah, right. But it's going to be a lot of fun.
The Packers won a bunch all at the beginning, but you got to remember, after that, it was like, not so much.
This is true. But it's good. The beauty of Buffalo is that everybody's here is very friendly. It's going to be a very laid back affair. We're going to have a really good time. There's plenty of stuff in store. So
I'm looking forward to it. If it was 2017, the statute of limitations should have expired by now. So I think I'm good to come back.
I gotta fix in with the police, so you're good.
Well, that's one thing I wanted to bring up as well too, though, especially with everything that's going on today. One thing that I did want to fill everybody in on, and I'm not sure how y'all are handling it up there. We are not under a mask mandate down here.
Okay.
We are telling people we're encouraging them, but we can't actually make them wear them.
Okay.
But one of the big things we are doing is we're only going to allow about 20 people in at a time to allow for distancing and everything else for all that. Plus, we'll have.
I'll be wearing mine.
I bought about 1.5 gallons of hand sanitizer, so everybody pretty much knows. No handshaking, none of that stuff. If you want to wave, that's fine, but that's about as far as it's going to go in here.
And if there's any kissing, it's on the cheek.
Practice the knuckle bump.
There you go. Well, in New York,
the new thing is the elbow bump. That way, you don't have to even touch hands.
There you go. Yeah, but what happens if I want to lick my elbow?
Well, as long as it's not windows, we're fine.
No, so far in New York, we're in Buffalo. There's no mask mandate. The first DeceptaCon that we had was obviously right in the heart of it. So we had stations where there was hand sanitizers. We'll do that again as a precaution because we are talking another 2 to 3 weeks. Anything can happen.
Right.
Numbers are ramping up, but we'll be safe, and we're outdoors, which helps. That really, at least the second day we're outdoors. The first day you're indoors, and I'll talk to Joel and Ish about that to see if they're gonna, bring people in so many at a time because it's a bit of a smaller but a very beautiful comic shop.
Yeah, that would be my suggestion. That's the best thing is just to go for crowd control so nobody's bunched up because I would be sorely remiss if somebody I invited here ended up getting sick or while they're here or
True.
even the attendees. I would be heartbroken if something happened and we weren't able to something happened to one of our regulars that come in. So
right.
I just want to make sure everybody is safe as possible, has as much fun as possible. Be happy, have a great time, just be safe.
Well, I'll be there on the first day as well as Amy, and we'll make sure that there's a certain amount of crowd control. We'll definitely talk to Ish and Joel about masks and hand sanitizers. We'll make sure that's in place.
Great.
We don't want anybody getting hurt.
I really appreciate that. It's not as if comic fans would ever get out of their deathbed to come and shake your hand and cough on you, right?
I'll be honest with you. We just did FCBD, and Amy and Darren came down for it earlier back in May, and they had just their mask mandates was still in place, which actually, quite honestly, it was really good because normally every time we go to a show with a group I bring, at least one of us comes back with the con crud. This year, honestly, I'm thinking about just wearing them from here on out at any show I do. This year, every single one of us came back, and nobody got even a headache out of it.
That's right.
Wow,
That's right.
That's really amazing. That's incredible.
So, well, no, I mean, I took some headaches with me, but that's another story. But yeah, as far as actually being there,
say hi to Grant for me.
I was about to say the same thing. Must have been Grant.
He knows all too well.
All right, there you go.
Hey,
Laura Jane just came in. She says hi. Our good friend CJ says they have to wear a mask in the schools in New Jersey now as well. I think it's going to be that way just about everywhere.
Yeah. We'll keep it as stringent and safe as possible for sure.
Well, I'll try to snag a few of the good masks to bring up there. Mike knows what I'm talking about.
Yep.
The good masks. Are you talking the N95s or the?
Yeah, I'll see what I can do about obtaining a few of those.
Okay.
Yeah, I ordered a package off of Amazon. You can get them for $10.
Okay. Yeah, they're not as hard to get as they were before.
Right. Yeah. It used to be $10 a piece. This was $10 for a packet of 10.
I mean, if you really wanted if Mike really wants to go all out, I can have that mask that the Sandman used to wear back in the 40s. I have one of those in the office with the aspirators down here. Now that would look good.
That's a gas mask.
That's
I
right.
don't think so.
I don't know. I may actually have some of those N100s lying around somewhere too.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's very similar. It's got the big old puppy things on it.
No, it's going to be a good time. It's going to be a very relaxed affair. People are already, there's a buzz like you wouldn't believe.
That's great. Fantastic.
Yeah, and it's going to be, I'm knock on wood, it's going to be good weather. And if not, we're going to have all preparations in place so that nobody gets heat stroke, rain stroke, you name it. We're good. Backstroke.
Well, I mean, I've talked to Mike numerous times, but you know what? I'm actually open up the floor. I'm going to do something I don't rarely do, especially on doing this. I'm going to shut my mouth for a second, or for a little bit. And I know you're a big fan of Mike, so I'm going to let you two kind of talk for a little bit.
Actually, give me 1 second. I was going through, if you saw my basement, you could see a little bit back here. As you can tell, I've got lots of issues.
Yeah.
And I found something. Hold on.
Well,
I don't even know what this is, so forgive me.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
I swear to God, she said she was 18.
So I pulled this out because I saw this was one of your magnificent works. Then could you?
Yes.
Do you remember this story? Could you embellish this in any way with?
No.
Okay.
I recognize the cover. What was the story about?
Superboy loses his brain. I think Brainiac kind of siphons all the information out of his head. It's
I leaned too close to the page, and Brainiac siphoned all the information out of my brain.
The ink sniffing kind of got to him, I guess.
Yeah,
it's an interesting thing that you mentioned about Kickstarter and John Sable. I'm assuming they're not flying under the flag of DC. Is that right? Is this something that you're free to publish wherever, or how is that working these days? Because I'm not too sure about
Sable.
It. Well,
I own Sable.
Okay. So your plans for Sable are to be published by
Me.
By Master
Okay.
Stroke. Yeah.
Okay.
Master Stroke Studios.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he owns.
Now,
we were talking about earlier. He owns Maggie the Cat, John Sable,
Warlord.
No. Warlord's DC.
DC owns
okay.
Warlord.
Pilgrim's you and Mark, right?
No. Mark Ryan is
Okay.
sole owner
Okay.
on the Pilgrim. I'm just a hired gun.
Shaman's Tears, Bar
Shaman's
Sinister.
Tears, Bar Sinister, Maggie the Cat.
Yeah.
Sable. Yep. Star Slayer.
Oh,
I
okay.
forgot about Star Slayer.
That's right. So
Not everybody has, thank goodness.
are there any other characters in the future that you're looking to spring upon the comic reading community?
Yeah, but it would be a little premature right now.
Okay.
I have stuff in the hopper,
I see.
including a complete universe that anybody can play in, and
Wow.
all they have to do is pay the price of admission. No,
There you go.
no, it's a real simplified means of creating a unified concept for a publishing company, so that like you have DC Universe, you have Marvel Universe, well, you got the MGU is the Mike Grell universe. But the concept that I have for that is that one that makes it possible for anybody to come in and interact or not interact as they choose.
Okay.
I've spent a lot of time breaking the rules of continuity, so it just seems natural that I would create a platform where other people can play, and they don't have to abide by any rules that anyone else establishes.
Okay.
So you're saying we may not be able to see Green Arrow in there, but there might be, right, like the the Emerald Archer or something. Huh?
You know, I wouldn't say an Emerald Archer, but Mark Ryan and I came up with a concept that we almost had sold to DC called the Green Man.
Hmm.
Isn't there already a character called the Green Man?
There wasn't back then, but you know, the
Okay.
Green Man, not I don't know about a comic book character. I can't speak for that. But the Green Man goes back to, I think, 9th century, possibly earlier than that in British lore.
Interesting.
And that's probably what they drew upon for it as well, too.
Well, Robin Hood was essentially a variant of the Green Man legend. Jack of the Green Man. What else was he? Of course, Robin in the Hood, the Hooded Man. I mean, all of that stuff. It's all basically tied to the old Celtic legends.
Yeah. And actually, the Mark he keeps referring to is Mark Ryan, who's a good friend of his, and I've gotten to know Mark pretty well over years. Mark is, I guess most people now would know him. He's the voice of Bumblebee in the Transformers movies.
Okay.
But he also was in a show called Robin of Sherwood way back in the day. Incredible show if you've never seen it. He was also on Black Sails, the show on Showtime, I believe.
Stars.
Really, that's a really good show as well. But Mark's actually also big into tarot cards and everything else too. He owns two of the runs for tarot decks, isn't it?
Yeah, he created the tarot system for the Greenwood Tarot and the Wildwood Tarot, which they're the two top selling decks in the world.
Interesting.
All right, I said I'd shut up and I didn't. So now, all right, we'll go back to you, Darren. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's
No,
okay.
that was good. No, interject. So trust me, you can interject whenever you like. Well, okay. So my question is this: I'm an old school collector, reader, and there's certain things that I like. The medium of having like newsprint pages versus the magazine glossy format. But the big thing is computer assisted artwork versus traditional artwork on paper. What are your feelings on the traditional paper, pen, pencil versus computer assisted? What are your feelings on those, and what do you prefer?
I'm an analog guy.
All right.
Right? Usually when somebody brings me a really ratty old comic book to sign, first thing I want to do is open it up and just smell that puppy, because that's what a comic should smell like.
Right.
What it should feel like. The pages should be yellowed and crumbling in your fingers as you handle them. I mean, that's just the way it should be.
That's right.
I have to confess that very early on, I took a whack at computer art. And after 3 hours, I had a face that looked sort of like something that I had drawn. But what the hell, right? At the end of the right, I wasted 5 times as much time as it would have taken me to draw it with a pencil. I mean, it was just pointless.
Okay.
And a few years later, when everybody was, this is early on again, dating myself, on Photoshop, I took a drawing, scanned it into the computer, and I rendered the hell out of it in color. And it looks pretty good. But at the end of the day, it's in a computer someplace. It's a digital file. It doesn't exist in the flesh.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't hang it on my wall. I can't sell it as an original. What's the point? I do use Photoshop to enhance certain things.
Okay.
You almost can't get away with not being computer savvy in today's world, really. But what I can do is, if I take my time and pencil very cleanly, I can take a finished pencil drawing and turn it into what looks like a finished ink drawing in
Wow.
3 mouse clicks.
Wow.
Right, but it's a trick. The that inked looking version doesn't exist. It's a pencil drawing.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that you have to be careful about is that you have to draw as if you were drawing with a pen.
Interesting.
You still have to make your lines clean. You still need to get the thick and thin in order to make the figures bounce. There are a few things that you can do that way that you can't do easily with a pen or a brush. And an interesting example was I did a book for Marvel called Herc 6.0 or something or other. And in anticipation that I would be doing the finishes myself, I rendered it like crazy. And not thinking very clearly that some poor inker is sitting there waiting for his assignment to show up, right? I'm not going to snatch the bread out of his mouth. So they handed it over to, I can't remember his name, but the kid who inked it took an effects background that I had done that I would have thought impossible to ink with a pen, and he did it.
Wow.
I mean, he did it. It's like, holy cow. Every now and then I get pleasantly surprised like that by somebody who just shows me what they can do. Working with Steve Scott has been that kind of an experience for me. There is nothing that Steve can't draw. He stepped in to ink the last half of the 3rd issue of The Pilgrim for me. And the only way you could tell the difference between his and mine is that his stuff is better, right? his ink lines are cleaner. The faces are just spot on. And I've had that experience with a couple of other artists. Michael Ryan on Iron Man. Once I taught him to be a little more subtle in his acting. That was back in the days when all of Marvel's characters had 39 teeth in their head, and they showed them every time something dramatic was happening, right? Right?
Right.
Once I got him to be a little more subtle, told him what Joe Orlando had taught me, which was there's a difference between silent movie acting, stage acting, and film acting. With comics, you have the ability to do film acting. It can be an arched eyebrow. It can be a silent beat panel in between 2 panels of dialogue that conveys the real message that you're looking for. And the other guy was Chad Hardin on The Warlord. When Chad came in, the first issue he had to draw had to do with a segment of the story was a unicorn coming to smell the girl's hand, right? And he actually got the lip on the unicorn right. A horse's lip is prehensile, right? So if you're holding something in your hand and they reach out, first thing they're going to see is that lip is going to extend. As soon as I saw that lip, I went, oh my God, this kid is so good.
Nice.
There was nothing I could throw at him that he couldn't handle.
Nice.
Now, I've always said that, a lot of people, the art of inking in itself is really a lost art form since everything with the digital has come into play. But, knowing quite a few guys like John Dell, who, Steve Scott and other, even though Steve's mainly known as a penciler, his inking is freaking phenomenal, or as he calls it, ink slapping.
Yes.
But, I have always said a good inker can make a horrible penciler look fantastic. And a bad
Yes.
inker can take the best pencils in the world and turn them into absolute crap. Speaking of which, how was it working with
You know, when I found out that Vince Coletta was going to be inking the Warlord, I was excited because number one, I remembered his work from Superman and stuff like that way back when, and since he was the art director at DC, I had seen his portfolio, and he had a drawing of Lois Lane in there that is to die for.
Wow.
I mean, just sweet, subtle, voluptuous, sexy as anything. You could understand why Superman, having the choice of any woman on the planet, would have chosen her. So I was really excited to work with him. And then came the harsh awakening. Vinny used to brag that he would often get a book in on Friday and deliver it on Monday. That's 22 pages, 24 pages of inks in 4 days, and not have a clue what he had just worked on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And for me, it became such a negative experience that I started to not care what I put down on paper.
Oh.
And that was a problem for me. And the way I solved that was first I went to my editor, Joe Orlando, and asked him to replace the inker. And Joe, knowing that I was running close on deadlines, said, if you get 2 months ahead on your deadlines, I'll get you a new inker. So I did. I not only got 2 months ahead, I was 2 months ahead on my pencils. I was 4 issues ahead on the covers. And Jack Adler, who was the production manager at the time, pulled me aside and he said, for God's sake, stop sending stuff in. We have nowhere to store it. Right? So then I went back to Joe and said, okay, I want a new inker. And Joe said, well, we can't very well do that because the guy will know he's being dumped. And I said, that's the idea. But no, I was still stuck with him. So what I did was I withheld an issue and inked it myself.
Wow.
And sent it in complete when there was no time left, absolutely no time left to do anything about it. And that was the straw that finally broke the camel's back.
Well, you were actually one of the start of, back then. I mean, nowadays it's almost a common practice of, if you're a penciler, you have to almost ink your stuff nowadays to even get a project. Especially some of these newer guys that are coming out. But same thing, they're working digitally where they're with unlimited undos, where any little mistake they do, they can just undo it. There's no erasing, no anything like that.
Right.
But they're doing it digital. They're putting out this stuff that basically they're drawing and inking at the same time just by throwing a filter on top of it. And they do tight pencils and they just throw a filter on top of it. But like you were saying too, it's a double-edged sword to somebody like me who loves original art, who loves picking up different things, because the one thing about original art is you have a one-of-a-kind piece. Unlike with comic books, if you love the medium, with a comic book, there are however many thousands of copies that are made, versus an original piece of art, you have the one and only. There will never be another. This is what it was made. These other thousands of comics were made from this one piece of paper. And if something ever happens to it, if you sell it, if it gets destroyed, if you lose it, it will never be replaced again.
That's right.
The only thing
that's one of the reasons.
I'm sorry.
Just going to say that's one of the reasons why the story that I did for the 80th anniversary of Green Arrow and the Green Lantern story, Green Arrow story that I did for Green Lantern's 80th. That was all pen and ink. It just
Well,
needed
one of the
to
things
be.
I do, I really it. I mean, I own a lot of pages from different eras in time, and I guess one of the biggest things is lettering is a lost art form because now everything's done digital, and that's one of the biggest things when when I show people pieces of original art, I can show them this is what it used to look like, where the word balloons are actually placed on there. They were hand done, and they were
Right.
cut out. That was the talent in its own of realizing where to place this stuff, and the Richard Starkings group, it's got to the point where you know everybody has their own style of handwriting, but these guys had it down to every S looked like every other S they had ever done their entire freaking life. Every I, everything was done by hand. And like I said, the art form as a whole, I think when it goes digital, loses a lot.
Yeah. John Workman, who has lettered tons and tons of my stuff and continues to this day, has actually produced work for Walt Simonson where all the lettering is done on the original page
Nice.
because that's how Walt wanted it. And if I had the luxury of time to be able to ship pages back and forth and have them done that way, oh man, that would be so sweet.
Well, they actually did the paste ups too. I mean, where they glued the word balloons on top of the artwork.
Right, right. Dick Giordano had the best advice I ever heard when it came to balloons, which is balloons are part of the art. So when you're
Absolutely.
designing the page, I always design the position of the balloon at the same time
Interesting.
so that I'm sure that I can lead the eye. I'm gesturing like you can see me here. So damned Italian is pathetic. Oh, wait a minute! You can see me. All right. So you can lead the eye through the page, right, top to bottom, left to right. You can zigzag it by placing the balloons so that the eye follows the balloons and then goes back the other direction across the page. If the art doesn't do that, the one thing that I always hated was the Marvel version of stacking the balloons. Everything is up here, balloon, right? Everything's stacked on the top of the frame. They're all up here. They're balloon. And then when you run out of room, all of a sudden it's balloon. It just, it takes away so much from the art that way. So that also leads to storytelling in brevity. One of the other things that I learned from working with Denny, which is keep it short, keep it sweet. He had hard and fast rules that were always made to be broken, but as long as you understood them going in, when you did break them, you had a reason for it, right? No more than 12 words to the balloon, no more than 100 words on a page. And yes, he broke that a lot of times, but he always had that in the back of his mind. The other thing that Denny established right on was, yes, it's bullshit science, but it's our bullshit science, which came in perfect for what was the Star Trek movie where they go beyond the barrier, beyond the end of the universe, and basically
Meet
nuke God. Yeah, they wind up killing God. The the basis for that premise is that if there's an impenetrable barrier and you're able to go through it, one of two things is true. Either the barrier never existed in the first place, or number two, it's not where you thought it was, right?
True.
I mean, those are fairly easy to understand concepts of universal truth. But one of my friends said his problem with the movie was that they killed God with a phaser. And he said, and anybody knows a photon torpedo is way more powerful than a phaser. I cannot argue with that statement because why bother?
Well, I mean, I could maybe help out with that because you would think if you were God, you would be protected. If somebody was going to attack you, you would think they would throw the biggest, baddest thing they could have at you, so you're protected against that. But a mosquito bite, which could kill you.
Then why did God create mosquitoes?
Well, I didn't say you created the mosquito, but he might have created phasers. If that was the case, why would he create the big, huge photon torpedo that could kill him? But it's one of those things where if you're the most omnipotent, powerful thing in the world, and you're trying, or in the universe,
and I am
trying to protect yourself, you figure anybody's going to attack you, they're going to attack you with the biggest, baddest thing that they can. You would never expect somebody to attack you with like a needle,
Right. Are you talking like War of the Worlds kind of mentality here, where these big monsters from Mars get killed by
So I don't know. It wasn't I agree, but I won't even get to that because I don't want to piss off any Trekkies I might want to watch later on.
So Mike, how's the con circuit been for you this year? Have you been doing a lot of cons?
Oh, hell no.
Oh,
hell
okay.
no.
Okay.
No, I just did my first show in over a year and a half.
Oh, wow.
Did
okay.
GalaxyCon in Raleigh, right?
Okay.
So up until that invitation came through not long ago, my first appearance of the year was going to be at 3 Alarm for Free Comic Book Day.
Okay.
As it is now, it'll be my second appearance in almost 2 years.
And you'll
be my third.
Beautiful. 3 times a charm.
There you go.
I still feel like number 1.
Occasionally, I feel like number 2.
Well, I'm telling you,
death.
As long as it's not death by Goonie Goo Goo, and that's a whole other joke. Yeah, I'm telling you, I really can't wait. I have a feeling Darren, you and Mike are going to get along great.
Oh, very much so.
Both of you, I know individually and care very deeply for you. You are some great individuals, great friends, and I'm just glad that we get to expand our little tiny universe even more.
Absolutely. This is, the idea of Decepticon, as I've told Scott numerous times, is to be something small and generic. It was originally destined to be a one-off show during the pandemic last year. And I called it Decepticon not to steal from Transformers, but to deceive Cuomo. So we made it like a garage lawn fate type thing, and we so called Decepticon, and then it took off. But what I'm interested in doing, because as you've seen, so many shows tend to get big. I mean, look no further than San Diego Comic-Con. It started off with pretty humble proceedings. Now it's movies and television drops and everything else go on. My idea is to keep it low key, keep it distinctively to a collectors of comics that love the genre, and leave it like that without becoming too big. Because as you know, when it gets too big, then it becomes a little too corporate. When you keep it smaller and you have a set amount of guests, it becomes more of a gathering. It's more of meeting your hero or exchanging ideas or having a good time in the medium of comics. And my belief is that if I do make it bigger, it's not going to become that much bigger. I don't want it to get out of control. I want it to be a wonderful place where people can hang out and be like the conventions of the past, at least in
that's fantastic
area,
Yeah, I lament the good old days when San Diego Comic-Con had not yet reached 20,000 people.
Okay.
Those kinds of shows, they were manageable. Everybody got to spend time with the guests. The guests got to spend time with everybody else.
Right.
That was a big social gathering back in the day. Nowadays you have just enormous turnouts. Sometimes the guest list at a convention is almost as big as the turnout had
Right.
been at some of the early shows.
which in itself could be a bad thing as well, because not a lot of people
Sure.
realize, when they come to a show, they meet the people that created the things that they love. Um, I'm gonna go behind kayfabe here for a second, but not a lot of people realize that the talent that shows up has to take time of their busy schedule to go do these things. So, if they're working on a book, that's if they have to leave for a 3-day convention, that is easily 5 or 6 days out of their work schedule where they actually
Right.
make their money, because you don't have just the 3 days for the convention. You got the day before when you're trying to pack everything and get everything ready to go. You got the day of the flight, and let's be honest, that day is completely shot. You're not doing anything other than getting to the airport, going to your flight, making your connecting flight. By the time you get done, you're so jet lagged, you just want to take a nap. And then it's the same thing coming back as well. So a 3-day show becomes 6 days of 5 to 6 days of no work for whoever it is. So,
Right.
when you go, I'm not saying that they're going. Everybody wants to meet their fans and everything else, but there has to be some money to be made at the same time, and in order to justify taking off, basically, it's like me taking off work from the fire department to go up there. I have to make sure it's worthwhile to do so. This is what
Sure.
pays my bills. This is what pays your bills. This is what pays any talent's bill, and the more guests there are there, I look at it this way: there's a great reason to have big shows and smaller shows, but the more guests you have there, when people show up, they have X amount of money to spend. They can spend it 5 ways, or they can
Right.
spend it 500 ways.
Right.
Right.
And, everybody wants to meet, and I'm sure Mike will tell you, he wants to meet his fans just as much as anybody. I'm lucky enough to know a lot of comic talent and TV and movie talent. They all love and enjoy meeting their fans. It's got to be financially stable for them to be able to do so, because if they're out doing that all the time, then they're not actually at home making comics and paying their bills that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Mary and I just before the lockdown did 5 shows in a row, 5 weekends in a row, and then 3 weekends in a row. It is to the point where you pack your bag on Wednesday, you get on a flight on Thursday, do the shows Friday, Saturday, Sunday, fly back on Monday, sleep in Tuesday, Wednesday, you get up, do your laundry, and pack your bag again, and you're back on the airplane. Many years ago, in fact, the year that Sable premiered, I counted my calendar, and I was on the road 168 days
Oh,
that year. Yeah, 168 days. At one point, I was sitting on a dais at a convention, and my mind went blank, and it said, "Where the hell am I?" And I looked around. I didn't know where I was in the world, literally.
who?
So I look around the room, didn't recognize it. So, number one, I know it's not Chicago because I knew that venue. It wasn't San Diego because it was small back then. I knew that venue. Everybody's way too polite for it to be anywhere in New York. So I start listening for accents, and everything is like sort of neutral Midwest something or other. So I went, aha, I'm in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. No, I wasn't. Turned out that I was in a town called Moscow, Idaho, which was 70 miles from where I was living in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho at the time, and I had driven down the night before.
Oh, jeez.
The next year I did 2 shows.
This isn't gonna match up to that. But when I started with the company I'm with now, I'm an optometrist, and they used me. Well, I offered my services to go to various spots in New York State. And at the time, we had two shops in Buffalo, one in Syracuse, one in Rochester, one in Albany. And, at first I was single, young, out of optometry school. And I said, yeah, I'll travel. I don't mind going to these places. And then, you're doing every week, or on a weekly basis, I should say, 7 days for work. Then pretty soon the doctors were there so long that they all had 5 weeks vacation. Now you multiply that times 5 stores, and that's how many weeks I was on the road. And there were times, much like you said, I was driving, I'd be in Rochester, then I'd have to be in Syracuse. At one point I woke up, I thought I was home. I was late for work. I mean, it really is insane. I don't know how people can do it. I think it's a young man's game, because I just couldn't,
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I might actually have to make him work when I get up there. I think I'm about due for doing another appointment. So
Either 1 or 2.
I could fix that.
So yeah, I might make them.
Doctor, it hurts when I do this.
That's a Rodney Dangerfield skit.
Oh, and remind me when we get up there that there's a few things that it's been on. I guarantee I'll forget a few of them.
Okay.
But there's a few things, Darren. I got to. You're gonna have to remind me, you and Amy both, to talk to Mike about.
Okay.
One, which is something you have to witness. One, if you have never watched Mike draw with 2 hands,
no,
it's a sight to behold.
Okay.
It, like I said, there's actually, I think I found there's one video on YouTube, so we may have to make an updated version of it to have.
Can do. Sure.
To put back up.
All right.
The other thing is also to have Mike tell you the story about his medicine pouch and his hat.
Okay. Yes. Absolutely. Medicine pouch. That one's got me really intrigued.
It is on him at any given time. I can promise you. I bet you it's around his neck right now.
No, but I have lots of other stuff.
Okay, all right.
Contingencies.
I had mentioned Billy D. Williams, who's another client of my show rep. So we travel around a lot, and he noticed my medicine pouch hanging around my neck one day, and he said, "So, are you superstitious?" I said, "I have no idea what you're talking about." Reached in, pulled out an angel pendant that I have, reached in my pocket, pulled out my grandmother's rosary. and I'm laying all this stuff out on the table. I had no idea what you're talking about. I said, if I had a Star of David, I'd have that too. He said, well, what do you believe in? I said, I believe in everything. I believe he's right, she's right, you're right, they're right. Who am I to say what's right and wrong?
That's right.
That's right.
At the very least, if something happens, you have all your bases covered.
Exactly. You're the only person who ever twigged to that. It's like, okay, yeah. Well, what if God's Hindu? I can get behind that. Just like give me a magic marker, dot right about there, and I'm good to go.
Now, what if you go to the pearly gates and the guy standing at the gates who's supposed to be God is Jack Kirby? How would you handle that?
Is or is not Jack Kirby?
He is Jack Kirby.
I'd say, hey, Jack. He'd say, hey, Mike.
Mike, he's got the backstage pass already ready to go.
Yeah, that one's not a problem. One more story
Okay.
before we ring off here.
Right,
because Barry's giving me the
1 second.
Yeah, Barry's giving me the signal that dinner will be served shortly.
Okay.
I was in San Diego, 80, maybe 87, something like that. And the hotel used to be separate from the convention venue back in those days. And I get in the elevator one day, and Jack and his wife Roz are in there. So we say hello. And I'm wearing my convention badge that says San Diego Comic-Con Mike Grell. And a guy in a 3-piece, many $1,000 suit in a briefcase, steps on the car, and he goes, Comic-Con. So you guys get together and what? Buy, sell, trade comics? I said, yeah, that's basically what goes on here. But mostly, I like to have the chance to ride in an elevator with Jack Kirby, the guy who created Captain America. And this guy went from middle-aged businessman to 12-year-old kid, just like that.
Nice.
And when my floor came up and I got out of the car, I looked back and caught Roz's eye. She gave me a big smile and a wink. And this guy had Jack pinned in the corner, like, you're Jack Kirby. Oh my God, I had all your comics when I was a kid. It's like my favorite all-time story. So I expect when I show up at the Curly Gates,
The Curly
Kirby Gates, at the
The Kirby
Curly
Gates,
Gates, I would not be at all surprised to see Jack there. And
Excellent.
if he's not God himself, he's the guy with the book, right?
And the cigar.
Well,
And the cigar.
after that story, you better hope you and I never ride an elevator again. You're going to be the guy pinned in the corner next time.
That's right. Well, thank you for your time, Mike. I look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it, guys. Take care.
All right,
Yes,
buddy.
you
And I'll
too.
see
All right.
you on
Yeah,
Friday.
you
Give
all
me a
see
call.
on Friday evening, and you guys, I'll see the next Thursday.
That's right.
Right?
We'll be there to
There
get
you
you.
go. All right.
All righty, buddy. Good seeing you again. Give Mary our love, and we'll see her Friday as well.
Will do. God bless.
All right, bud. Take care.
Take care.
Let's see. Well,
And then
there
there
we
was
go.
two.
That's it.
Awesome.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. Mike Grell.
Awesome guy. Awesome guy.
Well, guys, like I said, we'll go ahead and we were going to go a little bit longer because we're waiting on you to get home. But now that you are here and able to do your part, I want to thank everybody watching, everybody who's tuned in, everybody who's commented. Even though I brought everything up, but I want to say hi to Brian King.
Yeah.
Mr. Andy Childress. These are some other guys that are going to be here for Free Comic Book Day as well. Some other artists. Mr. Rafe White. I have no idea what you're talking about, Rafe. CJ Cullen, who turned in earlier. He needs a Bane mask. But Andy, you're so ready for the coast. Yes, Andy, we'll see you in a few days. So,
Yeah.
Amy, Darren, thank y'all for tuning in. Everybody else, thank y'all for being a part of this. And we will see you next time.